Alright, so if I put this in here, we'll see if this works. Check, check, 1, 2. Alright. So you work in a busy office and you've got a lot of people around in an open floor plan office. There could be a lot of distractions, a lot of noise. What I want to do is use this as an illustration to give you an idea about how to set your notifications in a busy Microsoft Teams environment. And I'm going to suggest you start with silence. Does this sound any better? So there's a number of different settings that you can use within Microsoft Teams to adjust what you want to hear, what you want to know about. Start with silence. Now this could mean that you're going to turn off all your notifications. Turn them all off. Change all those settings so that you don't hear a thing. But that's the best place to figure out what is important to you, to start off with silence and no notifications. And then ask yourself, what do you need to know? What is good to know? And what is nice to know? Use these 3 questions to figure out what you should know about from your notifications as you turn them back on. So let's figure that out as we turn our notifications back on. Let's relocate and figure it out. Is that even level? That's level. So first of all, I want to ask, what are some of the notifications that you should receive? The common places to have conversations and hear activity are Teams and channels within Teams and incoming calls. So when someone mentions your name in a conversation, you probably should know about it. They're addressing you. This is a notification you should receive, so make sure you turn that on. They might not necessarily be talking to you, but they could be mentioning your name within a conversation and you should be aware of what they're saying about you. Or they might be referring someone to you to help them out with a problem they have. So you definitely want to have that notification turned on. What about reactions? Do you need to know whenever someone gives the thumbs up to one of your messages, or likes it, hearts it, frowns upon it? Sometimes we don't need to know about these notifications. In other team cultures, a reaction is a good thing, that they might use the thumbs up to say, I've read this, and it means that they don't have this long flow of replies, but they can go through and just see who liked the message, yes, it was well received. So think about that, whether reactions are meaningful to you and whether you want to receive that as a notification. Now what about teams that are important to you? Teams and channels. Let's just sort of spin back a bit and take a look at it from across the room. In this open plan office, we have different pods that we sit in, so we could think about these as being like teams and channels. And you might have quite a list of channels in your team, so turn your notifications on for the different teams and channels that matter to you. Right, for me, that could mean that I turn on a couple of the teams where I am currently running projects and some of the channels that I'm working in that focus my work, and I might pin those so that I can see them. Turning on or making a team visible and also making channels visible or showing channels means that I can receive a notification from the things that matter to me. And the things that don't matter, teams that I no longer interact with or projects that have finished or wrapped up, I might still be a member of them, but I'm going to hide them, and I'm going to also hide channels so that I don't need to receive notifications from them, but they're there to refer to if I need to. But in other circumstances, I might even leave the team, that there's no need for me to have it even in my list. Now, I'm not too worried about that. I can always join a team again if I need to. But if the conversations are no longer a part of my work and what I'm responsible for, then I don't need to be part of the team. And people could find me in other ways, like via chat, to bring me back into the team if needed. Some channels that I interact with might be so important that I need to know about every single post. So I can set a channel so that it shows a notification for every activity. Now, the interesting thing about Teams conversations, you might have started the conversation, so you're going to receive a notification for every time that someone responds to that conversation. Makes sense. You started the conversation and you probably want to hear about all the different responses to that conversation thread. If you have joined a conversation where you have seen something interesting and read it and then replied, from that point on, you'll receive notifications for each reply too. Now, if that gets a bit too noisy for you, then for an individual conversation, you can turn off notifications. This means that you won't hear any notifications for each of those replies, but you'll still receive a notification if someone mentions you in a reply and brings you back into the conversation because they're talking about you or addressing you or asking you a question. So the way to turn off notifications on a conversation, on the very first post of that conversation, use the 3 dots menu and turn off notifications. The group chats in Microsoft Teams have a slightly different dynamic, especially if a group chat involves a lot of people. There is no threading in that conversation, so every reply you'll get a notification or in your activity feed. And depending on how you've got your notifications, you might also see a banner popping up across your machines too, across all the devices that you're using. So there might be a conversation that gets a little noisy and you'd want to mute it for a little while. So try that out. Reduce the noise, mute that conversation, and then you can go back in and read the responses and catch up with what's been said, and perhaps unmute the conversation if it's starting to get important for you to keep across it and updated with it. If it's a conversation in Teams chat which is no longer of value to you, you no longer need to be part of it, then it's perfectly fine to leave that chat. You can leave that chat. If people need to add you back into it, they can, but by leaving the chat, then you have stopped notifications from that chat altogether. Now, both of those tips are really useful when a chat is very busy with lots of people. You can imagine how noisy a chat group can get. So what have we done? We have started off with silence, turned off all notifications. We've tried to evaluate what's important to us, and we've slowly turned things back on depending on what we need to know, what is good to know, and what is nice to know. We've looked at how we can organize our teams and our channels to focus on what is important to us. And then we've also looked at how we can mute conversations in a Teams channel and manage the notifications at that level, or we could mute the conversations and notifications in a Teams chat. So those are a few simple tips that maybe you've come across them, but you forget to use them every now and then. I recommend taking a fresh look every now and then at the number of teams that you belong to, the conversations that you're in, the channels that you might have pinned or shown, and just do a bit of a cleanup. Silence the noise and you'll get things under control. So this has been Daryl as a service for Modern Work Mentor. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, then do give me a like and subscribe. But the other thing you can do is check out modernworkmentor.com, and I'm trying out a couple of different ways to help people get up to skills with Microsoft 365. Let's try a different way of training, and I'm going to use the mentoring method. So go over there and check out my approach, and if you like what you see, then book my time and we'll see how it goes, and I might actually turn it into a business. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.